Going the distance with local sports. This is the X Sports Network.
Did you know that Resource MFG, an employee bridge company in Lawrenceburg, is the first and largest national manufacturing staffing company? They work alongside the top plants and facilities in the area to provide you with job opportunities in production, quality, maintenance, supervision, and all levels of management. Resource MFG has positions open right now to meet your needs today and a full staff ready to work with industrial partners to grow opportunities for this generation of workers and the next. Reach out today and start your employment journey with Resource MFG. At Smith Tax and Business Service, we offer many services. Along with personal income tax prep, we also offer tax preparation for corporations and partnerships. If you're a small business and looking for some extra help, give us a shout and we'll get you fixed up. Call Mary Beth Smith, Marion Matthews, Brooklyn Bates, or Michelle Staggs to find out how we can help you. Located at 208 Pulaski Street, phone 931-244-6633.
Are you tired of missing out on family life just to be treated like another truck number? Since 1986, Southeast Carriers has been a family-operated business based in Lawrenceburg, Tennessee. Being family-owned ourselves, we understand the importance of family, which is why we value it above all else. With our large number of dedicated lanes and our friendly staff, we are able to evenly divide your home time with the amount of time you spend on the road. We offer multiple benefits with large company pay now starting at $20 per hour, all while keeping a small company environment. For more information, visit our website, southeastcarriers.com, or check us out on Instagram and Facebook.
Southern Craft Manufacturing is dedicated to creating the finest quality and greatest value products in the death care industry. Southern Craft has perfected blending old world craftsmanship with modern manufacturing technologies to create a full line of steel, wood, and corrugated caskets. Family owned and operated for over 30 years, Southern Craft is now looking to hire local and regional truck drivers, welders, and production workers, each with great starting pay and a benefits package. For more information, visit southerncraftmfg.com.
Going the distance with local sports. This is the X Sports Network.
And happy Wednesday, everybody. Welcome in here to the Mark My Words College Sports Show here on the X Sports Network. I'm your host, Michael Marks, and on today's episode, we've got some college football news to go over. We've gotten some eligibility things to discuss, some coach retirements, some more coach movement, and we even have some college football playoff dates to go over. In college basketball, obviously going to have some eligibility news to talk about, but we got last weekend's games. We got some of the games from early this week. There weren't a whole lot of action, obviously, because Monday's not a big night for college basketball, and obviously last night was kind of, I would say that the marquee thing on sports television last night was the NFL Pro Bowl games, so that kind of took front and center over college basketball. And then I've got my top 16 national seeds. Looking at my 1, 2, 3, 4 seeds if this tournament started today. And then in some college baseball, we got a TV schedule. We've got some fun new stuff. And then I have my Omaha 8 as of, February 4th. And then top 5 teams in the SEC and ACC prediction as of today, just because those two conferences have really dominated college baseball as of late, so I'd like to just take a little preseason look and say how I think each of these teams are going to finish. So we'll jump right into it with college football today. It's the first Wednesday of February. Now, the first Wednesday of February used to be National Signing Day for people my generation, maybe a couple years older. A bunch of fans used to call in sick to work today. You play hooky and you stay home to see which recruits your team are going to have for the next 4 years. And well, now early signing day has become a thing, and obviously with this Wednesday doesn't really mean a whole lot. There's a couple kids that have waited to commit till today because of coach movements and things like that. But this day doesn't mean anything because at this point, with the current trajectory, probably a third of these kids are going to hit the transfer portal before, they even hit the field with you. So, that's kind of two reasons why National Signing Day doesn't hit as hard. Now, it is cool to get a 5-star, this, that, and the other, and to see him play well, but, if he doesn't play his first 2 years, he's probably gone. So, National Signing Day doesn't hit the same. But some early offseason moves. Gus Malzahn has announced his retirement on Monday. Florida State announced. Malzahn just wrapped up year number 1 in Tallahassee after as the offensive coordinator, and has decided to call it quits. I would say for now. He's only 60, so probably still somewhere in the 5 to 10 range years left. And he may call it quits at 60, but usually, most coaches try to coach as long as they can, and I would anticipate him being one of those. Obviously, before Florida State was at Central Florida after getting the boot from Auburn. Had gotten Auburn all the way to a national championship, won them an SEC championship, and then before that was at Arkansas State. So Joey Aguilar on Monday was granted a voluntary dismissal as a plaintiff from the Diego Pavia case, and has sued the NCAA in a Knox County court in hopes of speeding up the process of trying to get him eligible. For Tennessee, QB is still concern number one. Going, I would say, fully into the offseason now. They recruited defense. They got a bunch of defensive coaches. They improved the strength and conditioning room. They brought in a bunch of talented guys, but quarterback is still the one place that's a little shaky. Joey was anticipated that this was going to be his 1 year, and then Jake Merklinger was on the team. Well, he entered the transfer portal, so now the two quarterbacks on Tennessee's roster as of scholarship quarterbacks. Well, you got redshirt freshman George McIntyre, who is going to be entering year 2 with the team, and then true freshman Faison Brandon, both very highly touted recruits. But in college football, you want experience over youth. That's the big thing. It's experience overall, because you look at let's just look at the past couple national championship games. And I'll go back before the playoff, even. Well, we'll just go to 2020. All right, so the college football playoff champion winners. All right, so Indiana over Miami. It was Carson Beck versus Fernando Mendoza, two older guys. Last year, Riley Leonard, a fifth-year guy, versus Will Howard, who I believe was a fourth or fifth-year guy. He was definitely a senior. Washington and Michigan, that was J.J. McCarthy, who I believe was just a junior at that point, but he was going to enter the draft. And Washington had a fifth- or sixth-year guy in Michael Penix. TCU, Duggan, he was a senior. Stetson Bennett was a senior that last year. Bennett was a junior the year before, going against sophomore Bryce Young, I believe, that year. The year before, you had Mac Jones, who was a senior, going up against Justin Fields, who was a senior. Joe Burrow was a senior. I believe Trevor Lawrence was just a junior that year. But you look, it's not freshmen. The last time I can go back and find a freshman starting quarterback in the national championship game was Alabama in 2016 with freshman Jalen Hurts. And, well, Alabama didn't win that game. I mean, it was a close game, but you look at the talent on that 2016 roster, I think a freshman quarterback is the last thing they're worried about. But, you go back before them. You got Blake Sims, and you got Cardale Jones. Actually, he may have been a freshman as well. So that may have just negated my point right there. But it's rare that you see a college football player just to be able to win it early as a freshman. And you look again, that 2014 Ohio State team was loaded, and that was Jones's sophomore year. Now, he'd only attempted 2 passes the year before, but if he's a quarterback at Ohio State, he's very highly touted. So there are also reports that Tennessee would welcome Aguilar back. Obviously, some of the fans are a bit iffy based on the interception numbers from last year, but Tennessee said they have money for him, and if he's granted a waiver, the Vols have around $2 million in NIL left for him. I think that makes a pretty good case for him, because Aguilar's not going to go to the NFL, and he can make the same case that Diego Pavia made last year, in the sense that, well, I'm not going to the NFL. There's really not much future for me in the NFL, but I can come back to college and make 7 figures. Now, if you ask me this question 6 months ago, well, it's been a little bit longer than 6 months ago, about a year ago, I would have been all over this, loved it. But I'm a bit iffy now because this morning Aguilar was granted a temporary restraining order against the NCAA, meaning essentially they can't touch him until their hearing. Again, you asked me this 12 months ago, I'm all for it. Tennessee needs a quarterback, and that's a pretty good quarterback. He was 12th in the country in passing yards, and a lot of the guys in front of him played more games than him, mainly in the playoff, because that's usually where the best quarterbacks end up at the end of the season. I'm going to pull up these numbers just to make sure I get them right. You got Mestamaker, who played in, I believe, 15 games. Mensah played in 14 games. Chambliss, Beck, Maava, Minichucci, Robertson, Veltkamp, Jennings, Sayin, Simpson, and Dante Moore. So he finished the year tied with Dante Moore in passing yards on fewer attempts, slightly worse completion percentage. But listen, that's a 3,500-yard passer in a game that's sped up as much as it is today. 12-game average. He's up there with the best of them. I don't think they actually have average per game up as a stat here, but he's an old quarterback, and I think that would give Tennessee a better chance, but I don't like it. Listen, he has been in college now. I believe this will be his 6th year. He's wanting 4 years of Division I football, which, if you have the opportunity, take it. But I don't think this is an opportunity that you necessarily have. And you're taking opportunities away from other people, and I get that that's kind of the lazy argument with this, but it's true. If you're a team that proves that you just want to bring back older guys, then why would a younger guy want to come play with you? Because trust me, right now, Tennessee went through a 3-year stretch where they got a 5-star Nico Iamaleava, a 5-star George McIntyre until like the last rankings where he dropped out to a 4-star, and then 5-star Faison Brandon. And so far, we've seen nothing from any of them. Nico he started for a year, not much more than that. Transferred, left to UCLA, and we see what his career has turned into. Can one of these guys step up? That's going to be the question. But I think this is the first time we've seen a TRO granted in college football. Yeah, this is just really, really interesting, and I'll keep y'all up to date on everything going on with stuff like this, because there is still, I believe, 25 or 26 plaintiffs on with the Diego Pavia case that I believe is having a hearing in the next week or so. So definitely very interesting stuff there. Indiana is going through what national championship teams go through. Their coaches are going off to bigger jobs. Their players are moving on to either the NFL or a transfer portal. And their offensive coordinator, no different. Co-OC Chandler Whitmer is taking the quarterback coach job for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers to go coach Baker Mayfield. I think it's a great job. Listen, if anybody wants to go coach in the NFL, I think Tampa's a great spot. Great weather, you're in Florida, and they're in a very winnable division every year. So there's a good chance you'll be going to the playoffs every year. But they brought back former offensive coordinator Tino Sunseri, who was the offensive coordinator at UCLA before they got good last year for that 3-week stretch. He was with the team as the OC and the play caller in 2024 and is back to take over his old position as a co-offensive coordinator and quarterbacks coach to fill in for Whitmer. I'm worried that might be a bit of a negative move for Indiana. Now, Whitmer wasn't the play caller for the team last year, but you change offensive coordinators like that, it can make a big difference. Was Tino Sunseri and Chandler Whitmer the difference between a national championship this year? If Tino was still there, would they have won the national championship? Because I think the one thing that Indiana did really, really good this year was their offense was so much more versatile. They put up points last year in many different ways, but I feel like this year the offense was built to compete at a higher level. I felt like last year was just a good team. This year was a great team. And speaking of the college football playoff, we got some dates for next season, and, well, folks, they suck. The dates for this are just pitiful. 38 days from the opening round of the college football playoff, that's the first round campus games, until the national championship game. 38 days. That is 5.5 weeks to play 4 games. And it's not like there's a gap between, it's not like gap 1, gap 2, gap, it's from game 1 to the end of game 1 to the start of the championship game, 38 days. So first round playoff action will be that third weekend in or third or fourth weekend there in December at the December 18th and 19th, that Friday and Saturday. The quarterfinal action will start on December 30th and continue on January 1st. Not sure why not on New Year's Eve, because they had played a playoff game on New Year's Eve in years past, but maybe some scheduling conflicts. Then the semifinals will be the weekend of the 14th and I believe that's a weekend. Actually, that might just be the middle of the week again, because that's just kind of how college football likes to do it. I'll pull up a calendar real quick for January of 27. So the 14th and the 15th are a Thursday and a Friday, and then the national championship game will be the 25th, 10 days later on that following Monday. What are we doing? Because this is putting the kids in a bad spot. Because there's nobody that is going to be playing on the 18th and 19th that played in a conference championship game, or not many. There might be, two. So there are going to be teams going from that first weekend in December. I'll make sure I get these dates right. So that first weekend in December for championship weekend. So that's going to be what, Saturday the 5th? So you're going to have to go the 5th to the 30th, or possibly the 1st without playing? I mean, that's 3.5 weeks. And listen, I'm all for giving coaches time to prepare, but all we've seen is that the teams that have the more time to prepare are less prepared because they haven't been on the field actually hitting each other compared to the first round teams. And then you go 2 weeks to the next game. I mean, I already think it's dumb enough that you're going to the 18th to the 30th, but that's kind of how it's been the first couple of years is the 10-day gap. But then 2 weeks to the 14th and the 15th? I mean, that's a college football semifinal game. Yeah, you want to rest your kids up, but guys, bowl season ends on like the 3rd or the 4th. There's not going to be games going on. So we're going to go from the 1st, so we'll say there's a bowl game on the 4th. I don't know when the last official bowl game is for the season. But you're going 10 days without a game. And then you're going 11 days without a game. Well, this is when college basketball is also getting right in the heat of things. Picks up watch viewership around the middle of January when college football's over. Well, now college football isn't ending till January, so it's pretty much putting college basketball in the dark from it starts early in November, early November till the end of January. So November, December, and January, first 3 months of the season, it doesn't get the primary. So you get March and early April because after April. You get March and April, and I guess February, but it's just you only get like a week in April, so you get 2 months of college basketball. I just feel like it's hurting the sport. And what are we doing? The playoff, you hit the portal on the 2nd or the first of the year, and other teams aren't going to be done till the 25th. It's just the calendar needs a re-scrambling. The most popular one is you make week 0, week 1, and if you want to play week 0, go play a game in July. I mean, it's kind of where we're at. Army Navy's probably not going to get its own weekend anymore. It'll get its own time slot. I don't think you can take that away, but it's not going to be a standalone Saturday anymore because that game would be Saturday the 12th, and now you can open the playoff the 11th and the 12th. And then you do it weekend after weekend, first round 11th and 12th, the next round 18th and 19th, the quarterfinals, semifinals. Yeah, it'd be on Christmas Day, but you can do it on the 24th and the 26th. And then you have the national championship game on New Year's Day. You get the whole month of December with great college football, every week like you should. And then now you're looking at, middle of August until New Year's Day of just straight college football. You hit the portal January 1, you got 2 weeks, and then, because that's around that 2 weeks after January 1 is usually when most schools are starting to go back for the spring semester. I mean, it's not that hard. Obviously, there's a lot of other things that got to go into it because you got to look at other sports as well, but that's the way I view that this should go. So, We're going to take a quick break, and when we return here on Mark My Words, we got a lot of college basketball to get to, so that will be when we return here on Mark My Words.
Let me tell you about a place that has it all for your home, bedroom, kitchen, lawn, and more. It's a home-owned and home-operated business that's been around for over 70 years, so you know they're doing something right. At Swap and Shop Center in Lawrenceburg, you'll find top name brands for every room of your house and top brands for the outside too. Looking for appliances, televisions, couches, safes, bedding, mowers, and well, the list goes on. So make the drive today to 824 North Military Avenue in Lawrenceburg and be treated right.
If you're looking for a company that can do it all when it comes to building, look no further than Tennessee Properties. From new home builds to remodels and commercial projects, our contractors work hard to give your space a new life from planning to finishing touches. Whether it's new interiors or dirt work, they see your big picture without forgetting the small details. In the market for a new home, they partnered with Freeman Development to bring new homes to the Oak Hill subdivision of Lawrenceburg. That's Tennessee Properties, licensed and insured. Call today or visit tennessee.com.
Good Works at Home, formerly known as the Summit at Home, is a licensed non-skilled agency dedicated to helping you maintain your independence at home for as long as possible. Our compassionate and caring staff provide support in various areas, including dressing, bathing, personal hygiene, transportation, cleaning, and companionship. Please call our office about services, payment options, and long-term care policies at 931-762-2310. We look forward to assisting you with keeping your independence longer.
Efficiency, reliability, accuracy. Move forward with your real estate sale or purchase with Title and Escrow of Lawrence County, the most experienced closing team around. Working with clients locally and throughout the state, we offer a wide range of services, including the expertise of an on-staff attorney, backed by our more than 49 years experience in titles and closings. We get the job done on time at a fair price and ensure every last detail is correct. Our goal is to give you peace of mind. When you work with us, you work with people who live where you do. We understand the importance of the real estate community and strive to build strong relationships with all parties involved in the process. Whether you're buying a home, selling a business, acquiring land, or anything in between, you're in good hands with Title and Escrow of Lawrence County.
Put the most experienced closing team on your side. Contact Title and Escrow of Lawrence County today.
Volco Auto Supply in Lawrenceburg has a legacy of being a family-owned and operated company. Since 1927, our business has grown and evolved into today's one-stop source for all your automotive supplies. But in that time, one thing has stayed the same, and that's our commitment to our customers and their needs. At Volco Auto Supply, you'll find everything for your car, truck, or even fleet of vehicles, but with good old-fashioned customer service the way it needs to be. That's Volco Auto Supply, 416 Buffalo Road in Lawrenceburg. Visit volcoauto.com.
For over 50 years, Southern Tennessee Regional Health System Lawrenceburg has been a cornerstone of care in Lawrence County. From cardiology to orthopedics, general surgery, primary care, and women's health, we offer compassionate expert care close to home. Our ER is now stronger than ever with more providers, chest pain accreditation, and our newest Joint Commission stroke accreditation because every second matters. Generations have trusted us for compassionate care and medical excellence. Faster, trusted, accredited. Emergency care with hometown heart.
Going the distance with local sports. This is the X Sports Network.
And welcome back to the Mark My Words College Sports Show here on the X Sports Network. We're done with college football, now on to college basketball. Some news that kind of broke over the weekend where former UCLA guard Amari Bailey hired an attorney as he attempts to become the first player to make a jump back to college after appearing in multiple NBA games. He says, and I quote, "Right now I'd be a senior in college," Bailey told ESPN. "I'm not trying to be 27 years old playing college athletics. No shade to the guys that do. That's their journey. But I went to go play professionally, and I learned a lot, went through a lot, so, why not me?" Because you signed, why not me is because of the rules. Now, there aren't any anymore, it seems that way, but the way I always kind of viewed things with college sports is once you declare for the draft and forego returning to school, that's you signing away any NCAA eligibility away. I don't care if you are 18 and you go one and done. I don't care if you're, say you're one of those guys that ended up getting 6 years and you went and played 4 and then you left a year and then you come back and played another 2. Doesn't matter because it's all the same thing. You went and played professional basketball in the NBA. And yeah, it didn't go your way. You're playing, I think you're overseas right now or in the G League. So obviously you're not going to be happy with your current situation. But what are we doing? You haven't played in the NBA this season, which is better than most players. And actually, you didn't even play in the NBA last season. You went one and done. You got drafted. And now you're flying around G League teams. Listen, everybody's not going to be the best player of all time. I know everybody wants to be the next Michael, the next Kobe, the next Jordan, the next LeBron, Giannis, KD, Wemby. I mean, you can name any of the guys in the NBA right now. And we got a ton of talented freshmen in college right now, but I don't know. It's just it is just absurd. So my mind goes to what happens after LeBron retires, because I think Bronny is a bit of a nepo baby. And listen, if I had the opportunity to be one, I would take that. I would take that. But say he gets sent back to the G League and flies around teams for a couple of years. Why not? He can go back to college. Why not go back to USC, UCLA, make some more money? Because now, obviously, I don't think financially is going to be a problem for him. But why not go back to college? It's an easier competition. It's a lot more. It's a lot less sophisticated. You could say it's even more sophisticated than the NBA. Kind of just depends on how you view that. But back to what I was saying with being the best. Everybody wants to obviously be the best player of all time. Everybody has that dream. When you go out in the driveway as a little kid. You got the lights on and you're hitting fadeaway shots trying to win the national championship or the NBA finals in your head. It's fun. But you look at some of the guys that are the best players in the NBA today. They are 7 feet tall, maybe even taller now. Wemby's like 7'4", 7'5", that can dribble, they can run, they can jump, they can pass, they can defend. And nothing against Amari Bailey or anything, but this is a guy that went to UCLA for 1 year. He's 6'5", 185 out of Chicago. He averaged 11 points, 4 rebounds, 2 assists, a steal a night, about 2 turnovers, 2 fouls a night, and started in 28 games, played 27 minutes a game. That's a fine player. But you're not going to be the next Derrick Rose. Just comparing a guy out of Chicago, that I think that's the thing is everybody thinks that, listen, I have a chance. I just need to go back and learn some more. I need to go back and grow some more. And it's really funny because 5 years ago, people were trying to get out of college basketball as fast as they could. I mean, you couldn't have kicked Anthony Davis or guys like that out of the door quicker. Andrew Wiggins, Joel Embiid. Now we got guys trying to flock back to college because they thought they were better than they were, and now realize that maybe some of these college coaches can teach them a thing or two before they go to the NBA. So let's take things back to a much lighter note, and let's go back over some games over the weekend. A ton of action. Honestly, I think this weekend got much better games, but not to say that last weekend was a slouch or anything like that. So we'll go conference by conference over the weekend. We'll start in the Atlantic Coast Conference on Saturday. We had Duke over Virginia Tech 72-58. Listen, I still think Virginia Tech's a very good ACC team, but Duke's Duke, and we'll look at the ACC standings in a little bit. There might be a Clemson or a Louisville that can, well, Louisville's already played them twice, but there might be a team that has another opportunity, and we'll look at Duke's schedule after the stats here. They can get one over on them. But so far, Texas Tech has been the only team to do that this year. And this game was never close. I mean, sure, you could say 40-31 at halftime was a little close for comfort, but Duke just kind of extended that lead. Boozer, 24 points, 8 rebounds, 5 assists. Isaiah Evans, a little slow night, only 11 points. But, again, some teams have started to slow the pace down on Duke because, I mean, you look at some of their games earlier in the season. Back in November, they're scoring 114, 95, 100, 78. That was against Kansas. But then 100, 93. And those were all consecutively. So they can put up points, and they have early in ACC play, 91-87, 84-73, 85-72. But then, Cal, 71-56. Virginia Tech, 72-58. A game we'll talk about from last night over Boston College, 67-48. So teams are trying to slow them down, but when you got a team with that much skill, you can't slow them down. They have everything they need. I mean, this is becoming one of the more fun teams to watch in college basketball because I think John Shire deserves all the flowers in the world. Because I feel like following the guy in college basketball, and we got a picture of him over here. Coach K is the guy. 1,200 career wins, absurd numbers. Who's going to follow that? I mean, that's following Pat Summitt. That's following Nick Saban. That's following one of those greats. And John Shire slid into the role, and I'll look up his career record now as a head coach because it's got to be absurd. And this dude's only 38. Like, he is super, super young. His career as a college head coach, does it not have a record here? Yeah, people forget Shire was one of the top-ranked recruits in the country coming out. But let's look at his coaching record. So his career at Duke, 110-23. That's an 83% win percentage. And also an 83 win percentage in conference play, 58-12. In his first years of coaching, so he's in his fourth year this year, made the second round in 22, made the Elite Eight the next year, made the Final Four last year. I don't know if this team is national championship good this year, but I think they should be right back in the Final Four. Clemson over Pitt, 63-52. Pitt's really struggled this year. They're 9-13. They're 2-7 in conference play, so it's not even like they were crazy beforehand. And Clemson's just a good basketball team. They play excellent defense. I mean, Pitt shot 38% from the field, 19% from three, and turn the ball over 14 times. That's going to win you a lot of games, and especially with Clemson has. It's a bit unorthodox, kind of. Their whole starting lineup is scored at least 5 points, but they got, in this game specifically, 8 guys played at least 20 minutes. NC State over Wake Forest, 96-78. A great game, again, from Darion Williams, goes for 20. 12 and 8 from Van Allen Lubin. Paul McNeil goes for 28. And Kadir Copeland, 8 points, 10 assists, 1 turnover. North Carolina gets a win over Georgia Tech, 91-75. Caleb Wilson and Henry Vessar both over 20 points. Seth Trimble, 18, and Luka Bogovic with 20 off the bench. Louisville over SMU, 88-74. Again, Louisville is so much better when Michael Brown is back, and he was back in the lineup. Scored 20 points. And I think that makes Conwell, McNeely, and Hadley that much more dangerous because those guys can all put up somewhere in the 12 to 15 points range. I mean, Conwell's a 20-point per game guy. They can all put up in the 12 to 15 point per game when Brown's out there because he is just makes the team that much better. Boopy Miller goes for 20 points, 13 and 8 from B.J. Edwards, 14 points and 8 rebounds for Samet. SMU is being that 500 team in conference play, but they've had a tough tough stretch to open up conference play. I think we'll probably see the Mustangs dancing. Cal gets one over on Miami, 86-85. The Hurricanes are starting 4-0 in conference play. Lost 3 of the last 5. The Golden Bears, though, hey, they got some production from someone not named Pippen and Ames. Chris Bell goes for 16. He has become a really good scorer for them. It's kind of that third option. But John Camden, the senior out of Downingtown, PA, 26 points. What a game for the Bears. Their defense wasn't great. The entire starting lineup for Miami had at least 12 points. 24 from Malik Renaud. And, man, what a player he's been this year. Was at Indiana last year, transfers to Miami this year. 20-7 guy on a pretty good Miami Hurricanes team, I would say. Syracuse over Notre Dame, 86-72. The Orange needed one. They had been really struggling as of late. And listen, if you can keep Harrelson and Shrewsbury, everyone else but them contained, you'll beat Notre Dame. Those two guys can score, but basketball's 5-on-5, not 5-on-2. And when you got Nate Kings and J.J. Starling that can put up 49 combined of their own, that makes Syracuse so dangerous, especially at home. And then Florida State over Stanford, 88-80. Now on over to the Big Ten. We'll go all the way back to Saturday. Well, we'll go back to Friday. Michigan, number 3 Michigan, 83-71 over number 7 Michigan State. Wolverines get 2 wins over top 10 teams in the week. Axel Lindenborg, 26-12 in this game. Elliot Cadeau is looking a lot better. His Michigan team is hitting their strides right at the right time. Michigan State needs to find some offense not named Jeremy Fears. This dude is been playing insane in conference play. You look at just conference play. Scoring totals: 14 points, 7 assists, 15.7 assists, 15-5, 23-10, 19-5, 14-5, 17-17, 23-9, and 31-7. Gotta find some guys that can score outside of him, because he's proven that he can be a very valuable scorer and get to the free throw line. They gotta knock down some shots. 37% from the field, 17% from 3. That is the Tom Izzo team I'm used to. We'll see if they turn it around in March, because they probably will. On Saturday, there wasn't a single ranked team actually playing. Wisconsin over Ohio State, 92-82. Indiana getting a double overtime win over UCLA, 98-97. 26 points for Nick Dorn, 24 for Lamar Wilkerson, and 24 off the bench from Reed Bailey. But for UCLA, Donovan Dent, 24 points and 11 assists, because he had guys around him that could score. Tyler Bilodeau, 18 points. Trent Perry with 25. Eric Daly Jr. with 15. And a great win for UCLA. USC over Rutgers, 78-75. And Washington over Northwestern, 76-62. Where we move to Sunday, where number 12 Purdue gets a 30-point win over Maryland. Purdue needed a win, and they got one in a big way. Penn State finally gets their first win in Big Ten play. And, boy, they had been close with a lot of teams. You go back to late December when they started conference play. They got smoked by Indiana. But a 4-point loss to Michigan State. A 8-point loss against Illinois, 2 to Michigan, 8 to Purdue. I mean, they were right there with a lot of teams, but then you go and lose by 23 to Maryland. But Penn State finally gets that first win. Freddie DeLeon, 25 points, 18 from Josh Reed, and Caden Mingo with 14. For the Golden Gophers, Cade Tyson, 17 points, 18 from Langston Reynolds, and Bobby Durkin with 16 as well. Now to the big game from Sunday, Illinois and Nebraska. Remember, the Cornhuskers hit the 3 at the buzzer to beat Illinois. I believe that was a conference opener, if I am, or like the second game in conference play. Yeah, back on December 13th. So been over a month since they've played, and the second matchup was everything we could have wanted and more. Keaton Wagler has decided he wants to be one of the best players in the country, and when he can shoot the lights out like he does, that's fine. 28 points, 5 rebounds, 5 assists for the freshman. Ivasic, 12 points, 8 rebounds. David Markovich, 10 points, 8 rebounds. Stojakovic has been playing a little slow as of late. Only 8 points for him in this game, and only averaging 13 on the season. But you look recently in Big Ten play, he has that 30-point performance against Maryland. But before that, 8 points, 5 points, 30, 7, 4, and that 17 coming back on January 11th. So want to see some more consistency out of him, because back in, when y'all were playing Texas Tech, Alabama, UConn, well, he didn't play much in that UConn game, but 23 against Texas Tech, 26 against Bama, his second highest scoring total of the season. If he gets back to that, and you got Wagler and Stojakovic playing the way they are, Illinois is going to have a number by their name that is really low and very deserving. So now on over to the Big 12. We'll go back to Saturday. Houston over Cincinnati, 76-54. And it's crazy to see Kingston Fleming go from a 42-point Saturday to a 7-point Saturday, but Houston didn't really need him. Milos Uzan was shooting lights out. Chris Signac hit 3 threes. This is a team that can play all around. I mean, everybody that played scored at least 7, or everybody that scored at least 7 points, and had 7 different guys score in that game, 4 in double figures. And for Cincinnati, it's tough playing a team like Houston. They got a 10 by their name, so you think, ooh, but you look, they've lost twice. And those 2 losses are to some of the more bigger physical teams in the country, in Texas Tech and Tennessee, and 2 teams that look really good. So nothing to really hang your head about for the Bearcats. It's just tough that they were in the American Conference with you, and now you joined them in the Big 12, and never gets any easier there. UCF, I talked about how good Texas Tech looked, but UCF now with already conference wins over both Kansas and Texas Tech, who were both in the top 15, 88-80 this final score in Orlando. 27-10 from JT Toppin, but really not much from anyone else. Christian Anderson, 17 points, 9 assists, but Lawan Watts didn't score much. Jalen Petty didn't score much. Donovan Atwell had 11, and you got nothing off the bench. For the Knights, Fulks, 21 points. You got 14 and 10 from John Bull. You got 10 and 10 from Jamichael Stillwell. Control the glass, control the game, and did not think I would see UCF getting out-rebounded by nearly 15 on the road. Arizona, an easy win over Arizona State, 87-74. We'll talk about the Wildcats we'll talk about them a little later, because none of their games really this season. What is their closest game? 6 points with Florida, which, looking back, that was a big-time game. 4 points over UCLA, 4 points over UConn. But then you got nearly 30-point wins over Auburn and a 21-point win over Alabama. And wins over Utah. There hasn't been a single close conference game yet. I mean, I guess you could say that 3-point win over BYU, which is a great game a couple Mondays ago. But for the most part, Arizona's handled business. 9-0 in the Big 12 after this one. Pete, 21 points, 15 from Krivas, 17 from Burries, 12 from Karchinkov, and 10 points and 6 assists from Jaden Bradley. Great point guard play from him. Oh, and then Awaka, 7 points, 13 rebounds off the bench, because he gets a rebound about every minute he's on the court. And not much to talk about on the side of the Sun Devils. The game of the day in college basketball was the 1,000th game in the Fog. Kansas and BYU. It was a great matchup, great game, and you have probably the top 2 picks in the NBA draft, and I have such a hard time grading Darren Peterson, because everybody that watches college basketball, that watches him on the floor, I'll tell you, he's the best player in college basketball. I'm not going to say he's the best player in college basketball, but he is the most NBA-ready player in college basketball. That's the way I'll put it. And he would be the, no doubt, number 1 pick, but it seems that he hates being out there. So let's look at his minutes productions in the games he's played. Kansas has played 21 as a team. Peterson has appeared in, let's look, 12. 12 of the 21, so about half. And out of those games, 22 against Green Bay, 28 against North Carolina, 23 Missouri, 23 UCF. Played some big minutes against TCU and West Virginia in the 30s, but 27 against Iowa State, 23 against Baylor, 32 against Colorado, 20 against BYU. Minutes upped last night, or on Monday, but still. I don't know how we can grade the dude when he's never out there. He didn't play a second in the second half. And Kansas had a huge lead at halftime. It was a 20-point game at the half. And BYU cut it to, 4, 6? Late in that game, and listen, Peterson had the legs wrapped up and stuff, because he's has some major cramp problems. how is that not solved, though? Because it was a problem with Banchero at Duke. It was a problem with Flagg at Duke. But I don't think Peterson's usage rate is nearly as high as those guys. I'd have to go into some advanced analytics to find that, but it just doesn't seem like Kansas uses him the way that Duke was using those guys to have them be so drained. Devonta didn't look as great. 17 points for him. Richie Saunders goes for 33 and 10, but Rob Wright 18 points. You're going to need a third or fourth guy to step up in that game because Kansas at home in this game, they were not losing the 1,000th game in the Fog, where they have like an 88% win percentage, might I add. Flory Badunga goes for 16, 21 and 7 from Bryson Tiller, 15 and 6 and 6 from Melvin Council, 12 and 6 from Trey White, and 18 and 3 from Darren Peterson. It was a lot more Jamari McDowell in the second half where he had 8 points. So, if he plays a full game, he's probably putting up the 12 to 15 points. Kansas is really good. But I go back with the sentiment that I made early in the season. They're really freaking good when he's on the court. I had a couple of games on Sunday. Iowa State over Kansas State 95-61. Again, Iowa State looks really good. Had multiple starters over 13 points. And Jefferson looks good. Momcilovic looks good. Lipsy really running the show. A great win there for Iowa State, as Kansas State's really gone down in the Jerome Tang years. TCU Colorado a 26-point victor there. And now we'll hop on over to the Big East, where we will go all the way back to Friday. Villanova over Providence 87-73. And then on Saturday, really not much worth talking about. UConn with a big win. Xavier over DePaul. Georgetown over Butler. Seton Hall over Marquette. And now into the SEC. We'll go all the way back to Saturday. Auburn falls in Knoxville to Tennessee 77-69. We're seeing the emergence of Nate Ament. 22 points, 8 rebounds in this game. Jacoby Gillespie had to sit a good bit in the second half. Had some foul trouble and finished with 4 fouls in this game. And earlier in the week, Rick Barnes had, I think he said on Thursday, had pulled Jacoby out of practice, just for the simple fact that he wanted to roll the ball out there and see what the 4 guys are. I guess you could throw a fifth out there. But how 5 guys can play on the court without Gillespie. And they had to play some minutes without Gillespie on Saturday, 11 to be exact. And, well, look up the plus minuses in this game, because I actually think Gillespie's is probably going to be the lowest. And I'm not saying that Tennessee was better or worse when he was out there, but I'm saying they didn't look lost without him, I guess is what I would get at. So let me find the plus minus for this game from last Saturday. That game was on the 31st. So Gillespie's plus minus. Oh, are they not calculated anymore? The Bleacher Report app used to calculate plus minus with games. I guess they don't do that anymore. But Tennessee looked good with or without Jacoby Gillespie on the floor, which I think is a good sign for March, because up to this point you had to learn how to play without him. That game you had to, and that's a very tough Auburn team. LSU over South Carolina, 92-87 in overtime. 92-77. Texas A&M getting a road win at Georgia. And I'm telling you, Buckyball is working in the SEC big time. Texas over Oklahoma in the Red River Shootout, 79-69. Missouri over Mississippi State, 84-79. Missouri's got great defensive guards, and if you can shut down Josh Hubbard, it's going to be a long night for Mississippi State, because he is their leading scorer, but a lot of the offense runs through him, even getting other guys open. So I would say without Hubbard, Mississippi State, one conference win maybe? Because it hasn't been pretty early in this one. I was waiting for it to happen, the iPad to slow down on me. So we will wait for that to load momentarily. Usually I find it's because I have too many apps open, but I have like 3 open right now, so I don't know why that would be the case. But anyway, right back to college basketball. So we were in the SEC on Saturday, is where we were. And we were talking about Texas A&M and Georgia. The Aggies are playing the most interesting style of basketball. I challenge you to watch them tonight if you're home on Wednesday. I would assume most people are home Wednesday nights, aside for some other things. So 18 points, 15 rebounds for Rashawn A.G. Listen, I think they call him Grandpa on the team. He does not have his date of birth, I would imagine. He's probably, 24, 25. But Ruben Dominguez, I think Coach Bucky McMillan calls him the Spanish shooter from Puerto Real, Spain. He's a fun watch, a great three-point shooter. This team, though, they are really good at just the best way of putting it is just pissing you off because they press off everything. And, looking at this, they had 10 guys that played at least 10 minutes in this game. Because Georgia's a team that goes pretty deep. I think they had 7 guys play at least 12 minutes in this game. But they're rotating guys. They're all scoring. They're all getting steals. They turned over Georgia only 10 times, but out-rebounded them. And these are two teams that usually aren't great rebounding. But if you're going to give... and you know what? This is actually just really strange. Because Georgia took 11 more shots. And nothing came from it. A&M 45% from the field, 13 of 34 from three, only 7 of 28 from Georgia, and then doubled them at the free throw line, 19 of 20 versus the 8 of 10. That'll win you games, but I tell you, watch this Texas A&M team because they don't have a number by their name because they weren't supposed to be good. And they're 17-4. You look at their 4 losses; they're really confusing because they have a 24-point loss to an Oklahoma State team that I think they would beat like a drum today. A loss over a UCF team by 12. That again, I don't know if they beat them like a drum, but I think they would beat them again if they played. Because they started to figure things out around early December. They had the loss in the Hyper Hoops thing against SMU, but after that, they went on 3 straight games: 112 points against Jacksonville, 118 against East Texas A&M, and 111 against Prairie View A&M to lead them in the conference play, where they rack off 3 to start off, and then fell to Tennessee and haven't lost a game since. If you're telling me a team has won 7 of their last 8, now they were 10-3 when that 7 of the last 8 started, but they're 17-4 now, and they can't get a number by their name. We'll rant about the top 25 in a minute. Now some games with some teams with some numbers beside them. Ole Miss and Vanderbilt. The Rebels took Vandy down to the wire. 71-68 victory for the Doors, though. And only 14 points, or 17 points from the starting lineup of Ole Miss. They had to go to the bench. Malik Dia came off the bench and scored. A.J. Storr, the transfer from Kansas, has been awesome. But A.K. Okereke goes for 17. Tyler Tanner with 24 points. I get he's banged up right now, but this Vandy team needs Duke Miles back in a bad way because coming up for the Doors in starting early in February, home game against Oklahoma on Saturday, but at Auburn, home against A&M, at Missouri, home against Tennessee, at Georgia, home against Georgia, at Kentucky. None of those will be gimmies. The most gimme one out of those is maybe Missouri, and they're 15-7. So, tough stretch coming up for the Doors. You're going to need all the scores you can because I feel like this year a lot more points are being scored in college basketball. And we'll talk about that with the next game. I didn't think Kentucky's offense was very good this year. And they go get a win at Bud Walton, 85-77, reverse of last year. An undermanned Kentucky team comes into a raucous environment at Arkansas, and they win. Otega Oweh, 24 points. Chandler with 13. Moreno, 11 points and 7 rebounds and 10 for Denzel Aberdeen. Trent Noah with 9 points off the bench. Really, the difference was the free throw line. Well, I'm not going to say necessarily just the free throw line, but also the 3-point line. Arkansas only made 3 threes the entire game, and 2 are Trevin Brazile. Acuff only with 1, 22 points, 3 assists for somebody that last Saturday was crowned, pretty much SEC Freshman of the Year. But I think a kid in Knoxville is going to have something to say about that. Great win for Arkansas. And we had a game on Sunday. It was the first regular season SEC matchup since, I believe the stat was 2018. It was the Florida-Bama game. two coaches had talked crap all week. The players had talked crap all week. It was going to be a very, very raucous environment down there in Florida. And unfortunately for Alabama, just was not their night. LeBaron Philon only had 14 points. Latrell Wrightsville, 11. Aiden Holloway played great, had 19 points. Bediako, though, 6 points and fouled out. Was getting G League dropout chants. I mean, I just find it really funny because this guy's getting levels of hate. Now, I wasn't around, so you could, compare it for me, but it feels like he's getting almost the Christian Laettner treatment, but he's nowhere near as talented as Christian Laettner was in college, or at least, I'm not going to say he's nowhere near as talented because Bediako could probably work Christian Laettner just because of how much basketball has changed, but like the level of dominance that they have in their sport, Laettner was much better. But, man, Bediako's getting slammed everywhere he goes. And unfortunately for Alabama, because that morning on College Game Day, Seth Greenberg says that I think Alabama's a national championship contender with Bediako out there. I do too, under one condition, though. Well, now that they have Bediako, despite that number by their name, I'm not sure if there is a number by their name anymore. Spoiler alert if there's not. Even though there's not a number by their name right now, everybody's playing them like there's that number one by their name because they have a G League player, and you're going to get their best shot because nobody wants to lose to that. And, so far, Alabama really hasn't been excellent. Since they've gotten him back. They've lost 2 of the last 3 they've lost 2 or 3 he's played in, and the one they won was dominant. But A&M, again, has won 4 in a row. That's going to be a good matchup tonight. But we'll stay on with this thing on Saturday. And, yeah, they got Florida's best shot. And, boy, the big men from Florida put him to work. Condon goes for 25 and 7. Chinyalu, 14 and 17. And then, Hal kind of plays the 3 or the 4. He had 22 points, 5 rebounds. Out-rebounded Alabama 44 to 33. Forced 18 turnovers to the Gators, 2. 24 assists to Alabama's 16. That's a 12 to 2 turnover ratio for. That's an absurd 24 to 2 turnover ratio for for Florida, and a 8 to 9 turnover ratio for Alabama. It's going to be a problem, especially when you look in it. It's 10 of those have come from your starting lineup, and those 10 were from your guards. Philon, Reitzel, and Holloway combined for 10 turnovers. Something Alabama's going to have to watch. And I've seen some concerns for some Alabama fans that, man, Nate Oates struggles against big physical teams. Pretty much. And the way I look at that is Alabama and Florida. Ole Miss, tripped them up last year. I think you're on track to see more of that. Teams that are big and physical in the SEC are going to give Alabama trouble. But I do think Alabama's a bit ahead of everybody else because I do think we're getting to an age in college football or college basketball where you got to score a lot. and maybe their style is the way. So, we'll take a look at the new AP Top 25. There we go. So the AP Top 25 came out on Monday. Tennessee back in the Top 25. Louisville falls 4 spots to 24, and these two teams have the exact same record, and one of them beat the other by 21. And the one that's ranked above the other was the one that lost that game. Miami of Ohio up 1 spot to 23. Their games are getting really close, and with a bunch of kind of power level teams wanting to come in and get a job or get a number by their name. Miami of Ohio might be working their way out. Up 3 spots, St. John's feels like they haven't lost in forever. Down 6 spots, Arkansas has really struggled. Kind of as we enter the middle portion of SEC play. Clemson 18-4, up 2 spots, as is St. Louis to number 19. Virginia down a spot to number 18. Florida up 2 spots to 17. BYU at 16, Vandy at 15, North Carolina at 14, and Texas Tech at 13. How is Florida the 17th ranked team in the country? Because after I get to one, I'm going to go through and read teams listed above Florida, and we'll see where they really probably should be. North Carolina at 14, Texas Tech at 13, Purdue at 12, Kansas 11, Michigan State 10, Nebraska down 4 spots to 9, Houston up a couple spots to 8, Iowa State up a spot to 7, Gonzaga stays at 6, Illinois a 4-spot jump to number 5, rightfully so. They're 19-3. Now they are the highest ranked 3-loss team by about 5 spots, but you look at those 3 losses for Illinois: a 4-point loss to Texas Tech, a 4-point loss to Alabama, and a 13-point loss to UConn, who is ranked 2 spots above them. And if you look at the points gap between Illinois and Duke, who is number 4, it's pretty substantial. Like, Duke would have to lose pretty handily. There's not going to be an Illinois jump Duke scenario unless, obviously. Now, these 2 teams play each other, I believe. Do they not? They played last year. I thought they played again this year, but it may be next year. Interesting. But UConn at 3, Michigan 2, Arizona 1, and Arizona continues to get all 59 of the first place votes. Just outside, though, you got A&M at 26, Bama at 27, Iowa at 28, UCF at 29, and Kentucky at 30. And Kentucky, I think, has a very good shot to get into the top 25 or next week with their games coming up this week. So we'll look at the games that have happened already this week. We'll go in the same order we did ACC all the way to the SEC, and we'll look at the other top 25 as well. Syracuse falls to North Carolina 87-77 at the Dean Dome. 23 points from Donnie Freeman, 15 from Nathan George, 13 from J.J. Starling. Nate King's only 8 points, a tough shooting night for him. Caleb Wilson, 22-9. Henry Vessar, 17-11. Those guys are double-double machines. And when you got Seth Trimble back, I think it makes your guard play that much better. A good win for the Tar Heels as they are looking for some more consistency as we near tournament time, because this is a very make-or-break year for the Heels, for their coaching staff, for a lot. Already mentioned Duke's 67-49 winners over Boston College, an impressive defensive showing. Fred Payne with 14. Nobody else had more than 7 for Boston College. 19 and 12 for Boozer. 12 points for Isaiah Evans. Not a lot of points in this game, though. Pitt over Virginia, 67-47. I just talked about how good the offenses had looked, and we got some teams that slowed the pace down. Listen, I think Virginia is just a matchup nightmare, because you got guys like Thijs de Ritter, who is 6'10", from freshman from Belgium. He can shoot the 3 extremely well, but he can also rebound in there with some of the best. And they're a really young team, but they have experience where you need it, because you got Malik Thomas and Sam Lewis, the seniors, but your big men, Grunlow and de Ritter, are both freshmen, and they're holding things down. You're 8-2 in conference play, and your only 2 losses. Go back to January. It's a loss to North Carolina and a loss to Virginia Tech. I think you'll take that. I think Virginia's got a lot of work to do, but I think that they're right there, that third best team in the ACC. NC State, a 1-point win over SMU, 84-83, a great game. That one was. SMU had a comfortable lead in the first half. NC State crawled back in the second half, led by Darion Williams with 25 points. But the player of the game in this one, Kadir Copeland. He was the transfer, came with his coach, Will Wade, from McNeese last year. 7 points on 1 of 4 shooting, 4 of 6 from the line. Okay. 10 rebounds, 16 assists, not a single turnover. I mean, that's one of the more impressive stat lines I have ever seen. Great win. For the Mustangs, 23 points from Jerome Pierre Jr., 14 and 8 from Boopy Miller, B.J. Edwards with 11, as is Corey Washington. But those guys, scoring was a little down from Washington, as is Edwards. Those are both close to 15-point per game guys that just weren't producing as much. So we will look at the ACC a little later in the week. You got Notre Dame, Louisville tonight, Georgia Tech, Cal tonight, and then Clemson at Stanford. All those games have close to double-digit spreads except the Clemson-Stanford one, but I think Clemson's defense is good enough that they'll control that one. We'll take a look at the ACC standings, actually. Duke at the top at 10-0, Clemson at 8-1, Virginia, NC State at 8-2, the Canes and the Tar Heels at 6-3, and Virginia Tech and Louisville there with 4 losses in conference play. I think we need to give NC State some respect. They've played really well in the ACC. Could you look at their 2 conference losses? Could have had one last night, but they fall to Virginia, who is really good, and they fell to Georgia Tech, who is another. They've struggled this year, but I think that they're still a team that can slip you up. But right now in the ACC, it's Duke. It's a huge gap, and then it's, I would say, Virginia and NC State. Virginia, NC State, Clemson. And then I didn't put NC State and Louisville kind of in there as well. Just, they can beat anybody, but they could also go and get, just absolutely dribbled around. Over to the Big Ten, where early this week, last night, UCLA, a 32-point victor over Rutgers. I'm sure Mick Cronin had something to complain about after that one, because a 32-point victory at home is nowhere near good enough for his guys. Xavier Booker, 24 points, 13 and 11 for Donovan Dent, 17 for Eric Daly, and 19 and 7 from Tyler Bilodeau. USC victors at home against Indiana, 85-71, or 81-75. Lamar Wilkerson goes for 33, but when nobody else on this team can score 10 points consistently, I feel bad for Wilkerson, because he is top 20 in the country in scoring. He's putting up 21, 22 points per game, and it's gone down a little bit in conference play. But I don't think the Sam Houston transfer had this in mind at all for his senior season. I think he thought he was going to be able to kind of jump onto a loaded Indiana team and lead the way. And I'm not saying he hasn't led the way, but if he's leading, there's not a whole lot of people following. For USC, 29 for Aaliyah Arenas, a last name that may be familiar because his father is Gilbert Arenas, former NBA star. Had a interesting career with some off of the court issues. Tonight in the Big Ten, we've got a couple of matchups. Michigan State on the road at Minnesota. An in-state matchup in Champaign where Northwestern heads south to take on number 5 Illinois. And then Iowa heading to Washington for what should be a pretty good one. That one at 10 o'clock on the Big Ten Network. Those games slotted from 6 o'clock to 8 o'clock and 10 o'clock on the Big Ten Network. I watched that Northwestern Illinois that game, though, because I feel like nobody in the South watches an Illinois team. They're really stinking good, guys, I'm telling you. On Thursday, in the Big Ten, you got Penn State at Michigan and Ohio State at Maryland. Maybe Penn State can give Michigan trouble again, but that one being at Michigan, I think is going to pose some big problems for that Penn State team. Looking at the Big Ten standings, I would say it's very similar to the ACC, is that you got a couple of top teams and then a big gap. Well, if the standings will load, and now we've gone frozen again, but I don't think this is the exact order, but it's somewhere along the lines of Michigan, Michigan State, Illinois, Illinois, Nebraska, and Penn State, or Purdue. Too many P's in that conference, but nonetheless, here we go. Well, that's the wrong conference. There we go, the Big Ten. Looking at the standings, you got Michigan, Illinois, Nebraska, Michigan State, and Purdue. Illinois and Michigan, the only one-loss teams, and they meet up for the last Friday of February. Are you kidding me? We can't get that game on a Saturday? Oh, Big Ten, you have scheduling malpractice on that one. But listen, I think Nebraska, Michigan State, I'll talk about them here more in a little bit. They're very good teams, but I don't know if their offenses are good enough to get them where they want to go. And you look at the top of the conference, Illinois, Michigan. Michigan's won 6 in a row. Illinois, 11 in a row. Which is crazy to think that at one point Illinois this year was 8-3, and now they're 19-3. But I feel like there's a Big Ten team that does that every year. They start off kind of shaky, and then they just go scorched earth from December to February. Then they kind of come back down to earth in March. But it'd be cool to see how far they could go. As we move on to the Big 12 early in the week, again, we had another big matchup, this one in Lubbock. Kansas went over Texas Tech 64-61. A tough shooting night for really both teams. I mean, it was 64-61, so there wasn't a whole lot of points in this one. Kansas had a lead at halftime. Both teams scored 32 in the second half. Yeah, if you shoot 32% from the field for Texas Tech, it's not great. 30% from three is fine when you shoot 12 of 24 or 12 of 40, but again, just the shooting percentage played a big factor in this one, as did free throws. 8 more free throw attempts, 7 more makes by Kansas. We look ahead to tonight where UCF's at Houston. Folks, I'd tell you to watch out for UCF. They beat Kansas. They beat Texas Tech, two teams that, Texas Tech tripped up Houston. And Kansas beat a team that beat Houston, so and Tennessee. So could UCF cause some problems? Maybe, maybe not. Who knows? BYU at Oklahoma State also going on tonight. BYU needing to get back on the right track as they've looked shaky as of late. They've lost 3 of the last 4 to Kansas, Arizona, and Texas Tech. Unfortunately, that's your conference. So now you get a bit of a breather, so to speak, with Oklahoma State tonight, and then you got Houston on Saturday. Then you go to Baylor, and then Colorado, and then at Arizona, Iowa State. I would hate to be in the Big 12. I'm just saying, if I was not, one of those top 2 or 3 teams, and we'll look at them after the one game on Thursday, West Virginia, Cincinnati. Looking at some standings. Again, it's Arizona, gap, and I would say Houston, Iowa State, and Texas Tech, and then a gap, but Texas Tech and BYU have fallen a little bit with 3 conference losses. They're, kind of in there with the tree, so to speak. UCF up there, though, in between all these top 15 teams in the Big 10 or the Big 12, and they ain't got a number by their name, and they only have 4 losses. Give UCF some respect, I'm telling you. Really good basketball team down there. And now we will look on over to the Big East. Not a whole lot to talk about. The Big East has been a bit down this year. It's UConn, it's St. John's, it's Villanova, and then everybody else. I mean, you could win 10 in a row, you could lose 10 in a row with those middle of the road teams because they've got some good, but they've also got some bad, and it makes it a little bit hokey to talk about. So real quick with games on Tuesday in the SEC, you had Tennessee over Ole Miss 84-66. Nate Ament, again, looking like one of the best freshmen in the country, goes for 28 points in this one, 26 in the second half, 20 from Jacoby Gillespie, 12 points, 9 rebounds from JP Estrella. But listen, my favorite player, Bishop Boswell, 10 points, 8 rebounds, 5 assists, and 3 steals. He causes problems. And I think that was what gave Ole Miss so many problems. It was a 26-25 game, Tennessee with the lead at halftime, and then a 58-41 second half explosion. Tennessee shot 13 more free throws, made 10 more. Chris Beard, who got ejected in the game, talking about free throw and foul disparity. Listen, Tennessee is going to be one of the best teams in the country at playing physical without fouling. So be prepared for them to shoot more free throws than you. But you shot a worse percentage than Tennessee, who is in the 200s of team free throw percentage. It was not great. And then Texas, a 9-point win over South Carolina after a bit of a shaky first half, but they really kind of everything fell into place in the second half. Meechie Johnson goes for 35, but again, that's the rest of the team only scored 40, and they played 8 guys. So one guy goes for 35, 7 go for 40. Not great, but a very spread out scoring distribution for Texas. Camden Hyde with 12, Volkatitis with 12 points, 9 rebounds. Jordan Pope, only 3 points, didn't play much in this one. Daylon Swain had 22 and 10. Tremont Mark, 18 and 6. A great win for Texas as they're back to 500 in conference play. Tonight, you got A&M at Alabama, Oklahoma at Kentucky. Those games, 6 o'clock on the SEC Network for A&M at Alabama. Oklahoma, Kentucky on ESPN2. And so we'll jump over and talk a little bit of college seating, so to speak. We'll move the baseball to Friday because I don't want to sit here and bore you guys to death talking for 2 hours. But usually around the middle of February, probably coming up in, if not this weekend, next weekend, the NCAA Men's Basketball Committee releases their top 16 overall seeds, the 1 through 4 seeds, pretty much, in a sort of selection show as a report card to show these teams, because the AP poll can only do so much. The seeding is where everything really makes a big factor. And Joe Lenardi does his best to keep seeding up to date, but that can only be so good. So right now, I'm going to do my 1 through 4 seeds, and I've listed a couple of teams just outside, needs to do some work, etc. Number 1 seeds, listen, Arizona's my number 1 overall seed, and that won't change for a while. And right now I got Michigan, UConn, and Duke as my other 1 seeds. A team that has a chance to jump in there next, I would say, is probably Houston. who I have as my top 2 seed, along with Gonzaga, Illinois, and Iowa State, just based on their strength for a schedule for Illinois, Iowa State. Gonzaga hasn't played a terrible schedule, but they're 22-1, I believe now, and they're a 40-point loss away from being perfect, which is kind of a crazy stat. 3 seeds, I got Nebraska, Kansas, Texas Tech, and Florida. I think Florida's getting greatly disrespected, and I think that they should have a 3 or 4 by their name. I don't know if they'll lose 2 more games this year in the regular season, because right now, and they may go on to lose 5 straight now that I've said that, but if you've watched Florida really since that Tennessee game, and you could even go back to the midweek game before that, they've been the best team in the SEC. Vandy's taking a step back, Arkansas's taking a step back, and who's taking a step up, a huge step up, the Florida Gators. 4 seeds, I got Vanderbilt, Michigan State, Purdue, and BYU, with some teams just outside. I have North Carolina, Arkansas, Virginia, and Tennessee. Some other teams needing to do some work. I have St. Louis in there. They got a big win over Davidson last night. Alabama, again, needing some work, but they're right there. Louisville, I think, is another team. And A&M, give the Aggies some love. I think they have a chance to maybe lock down a 6 seed, maybe a 5 seed. But don't count them out for a 4, maybe a 4 seed. It's just with kind of their makeup and new head coach, a whole new team. They're not going to get a lot of love from the outside. So if Texas A&M's got no fans, I'm gone. So that will do it for this Wednesday edition of the Mark My Words show here on the X Sports Network. We will be back on Friday. If there's any more news in college football, I'll keep you up to date on that. We will look at Friday, Saturday, and Sunday's games in college basketball, because there's some good ones. We got Duke, Carolina this weekend. And then in college baseball, I'll do my Omaha 8, which is my 8 teams that I think will be in Omaha as of February 6th. And then some top 5 teams in both the SEC and the ACC. And then some news in college basketball or in college baseball, because we're getting a regular season squeeze play. So that will be coming up Friday. So for Michael Marks, have a good day. We will be back here at the end of the week.
Going the distance with local sports. This is the X Sports Network.